Okay. Ready to go. Hello, I'm Larry Meisel, and welcome to Confidence on Camera, a channel for beginning YouTubers who want to become monetized, part of that YouTube partner program, so that we can earn money from things like AdSense and merchandise and sponsorships and affiliate links. Personally, I'm wanting to do this because I've got a main channel called TheXaminedLife, which is for people interested in the civil discussion of ideas and issues, from the tremendously important to the trivial but interesting. And my goal for that channel, once I get monetized, is going to be to donate 90% of any proceeds to Doctors Without Borders, Feeding America, Amnesty International, and a World Hunger and Poverty Relief NGO called Oxfam. I'll put a link to my main channel in the description, and I hope that you will go over and check that channel out and help me to do good for others. But on this channel, we're working together for you to give me your feedback so that I can benefit from the information, and you can benefit from noticing what I'm doing wrong, what I can do better, and you'll be thinking about how you want to improve your own performance. So in this video, I'm going to give an update on my Talk to Camera challenge. And I've got three rather relevant recent current events that I'd like to talk for a little bit about. So the 30-day challenge, well, back in the end of October, beginning of November, I completed a 30-day challenge talking to the camera at least once a day for at least 27 days within 30 days. I was successful on that one. Then my next goal was to make a shift and talk to the camera 3 days a week while editing also 3 days a week. And I wanted to upload one video to my main channel in the month of November. Well, the talk to camera part fell apart, didn't happen, because I did spend a lot of time on editing, and I did upload a video to my main channel. That video is about the horrendous war between Hamas and Israel. And spoiler alert, my main point in that video is to pray for the softening of the heart of the aggressors and the relief of suffering for the victims. I'd appreciate a lot if you'd go over and check out that video, and hopefully also comment and subscribe so that I can help the channel grow to become monetized, so I can do the donation to those charity groups that I mentioned. My next step in talking to the camera is going to be to take an online course called Talk to Camera Bootcamp. It is by a fellow named Thomas Norman, and it has 5 components. First of all is establishing authenticity. Well, I guess it's only 4 components. Authenticity, enthusiasm, humor, and expressing emotion. Within each component, there are a number of different exercises that I can do to practice presenting, incorporating those things into my on-camera presentation. I'll leave a link to that course in the description section. You might want to also go over and check that out. I've looked at some of the beginning materials. I've looked at his YouTube channel, and it seems pretty promising. I'll keep you updated on how things go. So then, I want to talk about, here we go. I want to talk about three current events. First is the new Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson. And second is a new development by Pope Francis. Excuse me. And the third item is the ongoing war and suffering in Ukraine. So, Mike Johnson, Republican congressman from Louisiana. I happened to be listening to the radio in my car when he gave his address to the House of Representatives on the day that he was sworn in to be the new speaker. And he made a surprisingly good impression. He seemed even-tempered, seemed very logical. His voice was well modulated. He seemed like a calm, rational, and reasonable person. Then he went on to the first point he made in his speech was to pledge to bring a bill to the floor of the House to aid Israel. Then he went on to touch on the usual conservative Republican issues and agenda, and he mentioned absolutely nothing about the war in Ukraine. And I don't get it. He wanted to send aid and ammunition, technology, and weapons to Israel because of the unprovoked, horrendous atrocity of the massacre and violation of human rights by Hamas. And just prior to October 7th, when Hamas invaded Israel, the television news and the YouTube channel news was just wall-to-wall coverage of the day-to-day events in Ukraine and pleading for and pledging assistance to Ukraine to push back the unprovoked Russian invasion, to establish, to support the Russian independence and sovereignty as a nation, and to turn back the horrible atrocities, violations of international law, violations of human rights being perpetrated by Russia. And I don't understand how Johnson and many Republicans can be opposed. They're talking about cutting back or not even sending aid to Ukraine when they can want to send aid to Israel, when the two situations are so tremendously similar. I don't get it. If you're a conservative and you happen to be watching, if you understand the reasoning for this, please let me know. I'd like to understand. The next issue is Pope Francis. A week or so ago, Pope Francis fired a bishop from Texas over criticizing the Pope on Twitter, calling for the Pope to resign, over things like the Pope's expanding the role of women in the church and the Pope's more lenient attitude toward LGBTQ rights. And so this has been going on for about 5 years. The Pope had the Vatican do an investigation of this guy's diocese, whatever. And they offered him or asked him, told him, gave him the opportunity to resign, and he refused, so he was fired. He's still a bishop. He wasn't excommunicated. He wasn't removed. Didn't have his rank taken away. It's kind of like when a commander gets relieved of their position in the army. You know, they still have their rank, but they no longer have their job, and they're going to be reassigned to other duties. And the bishop in Texas has continued to protest and criticize the Pope for expanding the role of women and being more friendly toward LGBTQ issues. What I don't get is how the Pope could take only 5 years, it seems like a reasonably long time, but could take action on this bishop in 5 years. But the Vatican, the Catholic Church, and religious institutions in general continue for decades to drag their feet about taking action towards sex-abusing clergy. I don't understand. I don't see how people I don't see how they can expect people to continue trusting their immortal soul to the guidance of institutions that don't understand the need to report and assist in the prosecution of child sex abuse. I understand the idea of separation of church and state. You don't want the camel's nose underneath the tent. You don't want the state being able to persecute the clergy or the institution of the church. But on the other hand, I'm a mental health professional. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And therefore, in my state, I am a mandated reporter. So if I have reason to believe that a child or a vulnerable adult is being abused or neglected, I am required to report the abuse that if I have reason to suspect abuse. I can call 911, or I can call the Division of Youth and Family Services. I can tell them what I suspect, and they will do an investigation. I don't understand why in the rectory or the minister's house there's not a sign over the telephone that says, in case of suspected abuse, call 911. I don't get it. If you have any insight into this issue, please let me know. I'd like to hear from you. And lastly, the war in Ukraine. Like I say, back on October 6th, it was wall-to-wall coverage about the day-to-day events happening in Ukraine. It was then, and it continues to be, a military standoff. It's a stalemate. The bombing and the killing are continuing. There's no negligible change in the lines on the map. But the killing, the suffering, the death, the misery continues to happen. Russia continues to bomb civilian areas and target civilian infrastructure, such as the power plants that are going to leave the Ukrainians without heat during the winter. And the Ukrainians are expanding their use of cluster bombs, which are outlawed by dozens of countries. Find these weapons to be an unconscionable violation of the rules of war. So the misery, the killing, the atrocities continue to be perpetrated. But if you look at the headlines and you watch the news, you would be reasonable to think that the war in Ukraine is not even going on anymore. I looked at the newspaper today and I had to type in the search box war in Ukraine to find any information. Well, if you've stayed with me so far, you know what comes next. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Please visit my main channel, The Examined Life, link in the description below. And for now, be safe and be well. May all your ups and downs have only soft landings. Thanks for watching. So that's it. Don't know what else I can say.